In the hush between midnight and dawn, while the world folds into silence, something stirs beneath the veil of sleep, a quiet force threading its fingers through the corridors of your mind. You drift unaware, believing rest to be escape, when, in truth, it is merely another stage upon which unseen hands rewrite the script of your thoughts. The stars blink above like distant sentinels, bearing silent witness to the programming that seeps into your dreams, shaping who you will become when the sun rises again. In the stillness of slumber where you should be most free, a subtle invasion takes root. The world outside dims, yet within, an unseen current begins to flow, a tide of messages, images, and sounds that slip past the gates of consciousness, like whispers through a keyhole. You are not merely resting, you are being rewritten. This is not science fiction, but a quiet reality woven into the fabric of modern existence. From the glow of screens that linger in your mind's eye to the echoes of voices absorbed throughout the day, your dreams are no longer entirely your own. They have become fertile ground for programming, gentle, persistent, and often invisible. Consider the rhythms of your daily life, the advertisements that loop endlessly on digital platforms, the news snippets that flicker across your awareness, the slogans and ideologies embedded in the very language you speak. These fragments do not vanish when night falls. Instead, they settle deep within, waiting for the sanctuary of sleep to begin their work. In this vulnerable state, your mind becomes a canvas upon which external forces paint new beliefs, desires, and fears. It is not always malicious, but it is rarely neutral. What you consume during the day does not simply fade. It festers, evolves, and ultimately shapes the contours of your inner world. And so the question arises, if your thoughts are not wholly yours, who or what is pulling the strings? As the night deepens and your body surrenders to its rhythmic cycles of rest, another process begins, one far less understood, yet profoundly influential. Beneath the surface of dreamscapes and fleeting visions, an intricate dance unfolds between memory, suggestion, and subconscious absorption. This is not merely the mind sorting through the day's debris. It is something more deliberate, more insidious. The programming that seeps into sleep operates like a hidden current beneath calm waters, unseen yet powerful enough to shift the course of your inner river. Imagine your unconscious as a vast library, its shelves lined with thoughts, beliefs, and experiences, all catalogued over a lifetime. Now picture unseen librarians slipping new volumes onto those shelves while you slumber, books filled with ideas you never chose to read, yet somehow find nestled among your own convictions when you awaken. These are not fabrications, but carefully crafted messages, seeded during waking hours and allowed to bloom in the fertile soil of your dreaming mind. The repetition of slogans, the emotional weight of news cycles, the seductive allure of digital narratives, all of these infiltrate your psyche, embedding themselves where resistance is weakest. Even more unsettling is the realization that this programming often masquerades as your own voice. You may wake with sudden desires or inexplicable fears, believing them born of your own intuition, when in truth they were planted long before you closed your eyes. A commercial glimpsed days ago resurfaces as a compelling urge. A political narrative, absorbed from social media, crystallizes into personal conviction. What once seemed external now feels internal, woven seamlessly into the fabric of your identity. Yet, not all programming is malicious. Some of it serves survival, reinforcing habits that keep you safe, guiding your choices through learned patterns. But in a world saturated with information, influence, and manipulation, distinguishing between helpful conditioning and harmful intrusion becomes increasingly difficult. The line blurs between what you have chosen to believe and what has been chosen for you. This raises a deeper question. If the mind is being shaped during sleep, can true autonomy exist? And if so, how does one reclaim the sacred space of inner thought from forces that operate unseen? At the threshold of waking and dreaming, there comes a moment, an unseen rupture in the fabric of perception, where you stand poised between surrender and awakening. It is not dramatic, this turning point, but quiet, like the first flicker of dawn before the sun breaches the horizon. You have lived your life believing that sleep is an escape, a refuge from the noise of the world. But now, standing at the edge of awareness, you begin to see it for what it truly is, a gateway through which unseen forces pass freely, shaping the contours of your mind while you drift unaware. And then, a single thought pierces the veil. What if I could reclaim this space? The realization does not arrive as a thunderclap, but as a slow unfolding, a deep resonant knowing that spreads through your consciousness like ink dispersing in water. You were never powerless, only distracted. The same mind that was shaped by external forces can also resist them. The same silence that allowed programming to seep in unnoticed can be reforged into a sanctuary, one where only you hold the key. This is the moment of reckoning. Not a battle waged with weapons or words, but an internal recalibration, a reclamation of sovereignty over the most sacred domain of all, your own thoughts. You begin to see the patterns, the subtle repetitions, the manufactured desires, the borrowed fears, and with each recognition you loosen their grip. Awareness becomes your shield, intention your sword. You understand now that true freedom does not lie in escaping influence altogether. That is impossible, but in choosing which influences are allowed to remain. Like a gardener tending the soil of your inner world, you begin to pull weeds from the roots, clearing space for what is genuine, what is chosen, what is real. In this moment you awaken, not just from sleep but from the illusion of passivity. And with that awakening comes power. The journey from unconscious surrender to mindful awakening is not a simple one, nor is it linear. It is more like the turning of celestial bodies, slow, inevitable, and governed by unseen forces within. You have walked through the shadows of your own mind, traced the echoes of external influence, and stood at the precipice where programming once dictated your path. Now you return not as the same sleeper who drifted unknowingly into the night, but as one who has glimpsed the hidden architecture of thought and chosen to rebuild it with intention. Sleep, once a passive portal for intrusion, can now be reclaimed as a sanctuary of self-dialogue, a space where the mind is no longer prey to unseen hands, but a sovereign domain where clarity is cultivated. This transformation does not come through force but through awareness, through the quiet recognition that what you allow in during waking hours will shape the landscapes of your inner world when night falls again. Every message absorbed, every narrative repeated, every emotion indulged leaves an imprint, like footprints in soft earth that deepen with time. Yet, just as programming can shape you without consent, conscious reprogramming can do so with purpose. The mind is not a static vessel, but a living ecosystem, one that thrives when nurtured with discernment, honesty, and presence. To reclaim your mind is not to reject all influence, but to become the gatekeeper, the editor, the sculptor of your inner reality. It is to recognize that freedom begins not in the world outside, but in the silent corridors of your own consciousness. And so the question that remains is not whether you are being programmed, but whether you will choose who holds the pen. It begins with a single act of awareness, opening your eyes not just to the world around you, but to the subtle forces shaping the world within. The first step in reclaiming your mind is recognizing that programming is not a distant phenomenon. It is intimate, persistent, and woven into the fabric of daily life. Every time you scroll through a feed, listen to a news segment, or absorb the mood of a room, you are being seeded with thoughts not originally your own. But now that you see this, you can no longer pretend ignorance. So what will you do with this knowledge? Begin by listening to yourself. Pay attention to the thoughts that arise unbidden, the emotions that swell without clear cause, the desires that whisper late at night. Ask not only what they mean, but where they came from. Trace them back to their source. Is this truly your voice or an echo of something you absorbed? Discernment is your first tool of liberation. Then, create boundaries. Just as you would not allow a stranger to rearrange your home, do not allow unchecked influences to reshape your mind. Curate what you consume. Silence the noise that offers nothing but distraction. Surround yourself not with information, but with wisdom, not with stimulation but with stillness. And finally, reclaim your sleep, not just as rest but as ritual. Let it be a sacred space where only what you choose may enter. Meditate before bed, set intention upon waking. Speak to yourself with the same care you would offer a loved one. In doing so, you transform unconscious vulnerability into conscious power. The mind is the last frontier of true freedom. Will you step forward and claim yours?